Welcome to this help movie on managing rebase questions. If you haven't already seen the overview and demo movies, we would suggest that you do so before watching this. This movie will discuss the folder tree, the question grid, provide examples on setting up some questions, moving questions and then deleting questions. The example we'll be using is a research institution that runs several skin tests on a set of children over a certain period of time. This section acts like a repository for all your questions. You will only need to add each question once, as they can later be placed into one or more views. The left-hand tree acts like a folder system, much like in a Microsoft Windows environment, and allows you to categorize your questions into a format that will be easy for you and your users to find. The right-hand grid is where the questions will be displayed. Clicking on a folder in the left-hand tree will display all questions contained inside that folder. First, let's look at the folder tree in more detail. In this example, we can see a folder set up to store all patient questions, and a folder to store all test occasion questions. You may also have noticed a bold question inside the topmost folder. This is an ID question, meaning everything inside this folder and all its subfolders is dependent on this patient ID. So for example, when entering patient personal details in a view, they must of course start by stating which patient ID the data refers to. When deciding whether an ID question is required, you would need to think in terms of the frequency the data needs to be collected. For example, we know that each patient will require several test visits. Therefore, in a test occasion folder, we will have to add a bold test occasion ID question in order to identify each of those patient visits. This therefore means any question contained within the test occasion folder and any of its subfolders is dependent on the patient ID and the test occasion ID. Before adding questions into the folders, it's best to first make sure it doesn't already exist. To do this, select the topmost folder and click the option that says Show All Subfolder Questions. This loads all questions into the right-hand grid. You can then search for the question to see if it already exists. Later demos will go into more detail on this search facility, including using synonyms and linking similar keywords to enhance the precision of your search. Now, when adding or editing a question, you'll be provided with the following wizard. This is where you can enter the question, any additional details you want the users to see when entering the data, set the abbreviation, which is the column title used in grids and spreadsheets, and choose the data type of the information you want to collect, such as text, number, date, lookup, which provides the users entering the data with a drop-down list of options to choose from, calculations, which can be used to calculate the results of a combination of other columns such as patient's current age, sales total, etc., and auto increment. Many more data types will soon be available, including currency, email, file, so you can upload files to Rebase, and many more. You can also set whether the question needs to be an ID question and whether to alert the user if they enter a blank value. You can then set validation rules for the data you collect. For example, for a number you can set the minimum and maximum numbers to accept. If the user enters data outside this range, they will be provided with an error message and will not be able to save the data. Similarly, when importing data, the system will ensure it is within this range. Now that we've added our questions, we won't need to add them again. Two examples will now be provided, setting up a lookup question and a calculation question. So when collecting data from a patient's ethnic group, it will be best to provide the user entering the data with a drop-down list of options to choose from. To do this, we must first set up a lookup, which will act as a drop-down list of options, and then we can link that lookup to the question. You can navigate to the lookup section through the settings menu. In this section, a lookup is being created called ethnic group, which contains all required options. To link this to the patient's ethnic group question, navigate back to the question section. In the question setup wizard, ensure lookup is set as the data type. Then in step 2 data type validation, we can select the ethnic group lookup. Now, when the user enters information relating to this question, the system will provide the user with a drop-down list of options. An example calculation question could be a patient's current age at any given time. To calculate this, we would need to know the patient's date of birth and today's date. So when setting up the current age question, we would ensure the data type is set as calculation. Then in step 2, data type validation, is where we'd add the formula. When creating formulas, you are provided with the available symbols and functions and a few examples to get you started. These are by no means limited, and if you need any function not listed here, please contact a member of our support staff who are also available at any time you need help setting up these formulas. In this example, the calculation we have set up says get the date difference between now and the date of birth question. Then divide the answer by 365.25, which would give the current age. But then we're also saying format the answer to 2 decimal places. Note here that when you want to reference another question in the database, you must enclose its abbreviation in parentheses. Now, each time the user opens a data view, the system will automatically calculate the patient's current age. Questions can be ordered inside a folder by using drag and drop or the move up and move down buttons. Folders can also be moved by dragging and dropping. However, we need to be careful of IDs when moving questions or folders. For example, the test date question and all data that has currently been entered for this question is dependent on the patient ID and the test occasion ID. Therefore, if this question is moved outside of the test occasion folder, it will no longer be dependent on the test occasion ID, and all current data for this particular question would no longer be visible in the data entry windows. Only super administrators can delete folders or questions. However, please be careful when doing so, as all data currently entered for those questions will also be removed. Having said that, please don't worry. Rebase takes regular backups of your data, which will be discussed in more detail in a later demo, and our support staff are always on hand to help you recover any lost data if required. Thank you for listening, and please contact us if we can be of any assistance.